Beneath the veil of a perfect wedding lay secrets, betrayal, and a friendship shattered forever. Laura and Clara had grown up like sisters, sharing every secret from innocent dreams to hidden fears. Laura, with her golden hair and radiant energy, was always the center of attention. Clara, quieter and more reserved, carried warmth in her deep brown eyes and a heart full of kindness. They first met in elementary school, on the day Clara stood up to a group of bullies who had cornered Laura. That single act of courage sealed a lifelong bond. From then on, they were inseparable. Through their teenage years, they walked side by side through every milestone. First crushes, sleepless nights before exams, birthday parties filled with laughter. Laura often dreamed aloud about her future wedding, insisting Clara would stand as her maid of honor. "Without you, I'd never walk down the aisle," Laura once whispered, gripping Clara's hand under the moonlit sky by the lake. Clara moved, smiled, and promised, "I'll always be by your side no matter what." Yet beneath the glow of their perfect friendship, tiny cracks began to form. Laura, hungry for attention, sometimes stiffened when Clara received praise from their mutual friends. Clara, humble by nature, never noticed the quiet envy in Laura's eyes. When others admired Clara's intelligence or kindness, Laura forced a grin, then quickly shifted the topic. These moments slipped past like shadows, but they were warnings, signals of a darker storm to come. When college arrived, distance crept between them. Laura studied communications in a bustling city, while Clara pursued psychology in a quieter town. Still, long video calls kept them connected, Clara listening patiently, Laura spinning tales of her latest adventures. But everything shifted when Laura met Mark. Handsome, reserved, almost mysterious, he was the man she claimed to have met through a dating app. With him, Laura grew secretive. Clara sensed the change but brushed it off as part of growing up. Soon, Laura and Mark became serious. She praised his charm, his steadiness, his perfection, but she always avoided arranging a meeting with Clara. "He's too busy," she would say. Clara accepted it without suspicion. What she didn't know was that Laura's fairy tale love story was built on hidden truths. Truths Laura was desperate to keep buried, especially from Clara. Update: Laura and Mark's wedding unfolded in a grand hall, draped in white roses and golden light. Guests gasped at Laura's beauty as she appeared radiant in her flowing gown. For a moment, every eye was on the bride, and then Clara entered. Dressed in a deep crimson gown, she was striking, elegant, magnetic, unforgettable. Though she did not outshine, the bride Laura saw it otherwise. Leaning toward me, Laura hissed, "She is trying to steal the spotlight." I tried to calm her, insisting Clara was simply wearing a beautiful dress. But Laura's gaze sharpened, her smile faltered, and her jealousy burned, visibly for the first time. Clara, oblivious, moved gracefully through the crowd. She laughed, greeted relatives, and even congratulated Laura warmly. Laura responded with only a thin, forced smile. To most, the air was festive, but to me, the tension between them was like a live wire, silent, dangerous, waiting to ignite. As the reception wore on, I noticed Laura whispering to a bridesmaid. Her tone was sharp, conspiratorial. Curious, I edged closer and froze. She was plotting to spill red wine on Clara's gown. "Just a harmless accident," she muttered, smirking. I dragged her aside, my pulse racing. "What are you thinking? You can't do this." She denied it at first. But when I pressed, her mask cracked. Her voice rose, trembling with fury. "You don't understand. Clara is trying to ruin my wedding." The outburst was so loud that nearby guests turned to stare. Heat flushed my face with shame. I pleaded with her to stop, but her anger only deepened. To Laura, my protest wasn't protection. It was betrayal. From that moment, I stayed close to Clara, determined to shield her from Laura's spiraling obsession. Clara, unaware of the venom aimed her way, continued to smile, dance, and enjoy the night, watching her innocence against Laura's growing darkness. I felt a chill settle deep inside me. The sabotage never happened, but the damage was done. Guests had noticed Laura's raised voice, the way her eyes flickered with hostility toward Clara. Whispers drifted through the hall like smoke curling under doors. Laura struggled to keep her bride's mask intact, but I saw the storm raging beneath. Fury, humiliation, desperation for control. Mark, blissfully unaware, laughed with relatives and toasted with friends, never realizing how close the night had come to disaster. By the end, Laura refused to speak to me. She left with Mark, her silence heavier than her gown's trailing veil. Clara lingered, helping gather stray decorations. She looked calm, but her eyes betrayed quiet hurt. When I asked softly if she was all right, she gave a fragile smile. "I don't even know what I did wrong." I couldn't bring myself to reveal Laura's scheme, but I knew this was only the beginning. Something darker was festering, and it would not stay hidden for long. Update 3: The morning after Laura struck her first blow, Clara's phone lit up with a torrent of venom. Accusations that she had ruined the wedding, that her crimson dress had been a calculated insult. "You knew you weren't supposed to wear red." One message snarled. Shaken, Clara tried to call, desperate to explain, but Laura had already blocked her. It didn't stop there. Laura began poisoning the family, spinning lies of betrayal. My parents, loyal to their golden daughter, started to believe Clara must have done something wrong. Clara was devastated. She called me, her voice trembling. "What happened? Why is Laura doing this?" I had no answer. I could only comfort her with hollow words, but deep down, suspicion burned. Laura was hiding something, and I had to find it before it destroyed us all. A week later, Mark came to me. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed from sleepless nights. "Why does Laura hate Clara so much?" he asked. "She won't stop talking about betrayal, but Clara saved me. I owe her everything." Then he told me what I hadn't known. Back when his life was drowning in addiction and despair, Clara, just an intern then, had guided him through his darkest nights. She was the reason he had survived. Mark confessed he had wanted Clara to stand as his witness at the wedding, a gesture of gratitude. But Laura had refused, furious. She had demanded Clara play no role at all. In the end, he had yielded blind to the depth of Laura's fear. When I told Clara, her eyes widened in shock. "He never told me that," she whispered, her voice breaking. The truth chilled me to the bone. Laura wasn't just jealous. She was twisting reality, silencing truths, and weaving lies. Soon I saw the cracks more clearly. Laura's story about meeting Mark on a dating app was vague, full of gaps. When I asked Mark, he only said a mutual friend had introduced them. Unaware, I knew it was Clara, and whenever Mark's past was mentioned, Laura bristled. Once when my father asked a harmless question, she jumped in, smiling too brightly, changing the subject too quickly. Meanwhile, Clara began to disappear. She stopped visiting, stopped answering my calls. Laura had exiled her, and the silence between us grew heavy. It felt like losing a sister. The threads of Laura's deception were tightening, and I knew they would snap soon. Update: 4 months after the wedding, the illusion shattered. Mark found a letter supposedly from my family thanking him for his honesty about his past. But when he asked my mother, she was baffled. She had never written such a thing. Lightning struck him with the realization. Laura had forged it. She had faked the very acceptance he craved, chaining him with lies. Driven by unease, Mark turned to Clara, and the truth unraveled. Laura had told Clara that my family despised his past and demanded silence. To him, she had said the opposite, that we had forgiven him completely. Both stories were fabrications spun to isolate them from each other. Mark felt gutted, betrayed beyond repair. He had believed Laura's love was built on truth. Now he saw only shame, manipulation, and control. When he confronted her, she wept, deflected, and blamed Clara. But nothing could erase the betrayal. More secrets bled into the open. I learned Laura had not only stripped Clara of her maid of honor role, but had poisoned the bridesmaids with lies. That Clara was attention-hungry, that she had once pursued a groomsman, that she was reckless and might ruin the wedding in drunken chaos. The smear campaign worked. Clara had been left utterly alone on the day she should have stood by her best friend. When Clara finally discovered the truth, her voice was hollow. "She was my best friend. How could she do this?" She cut ties completely. My parents, horrified, tried to apologize, but Clara refused to see them. The friendship that had once defined Laura's life was ashes. Mark could not forgive. "I can't live with someone who builds love on lies," he said, calm but final. No pleading, no tears could stop him. He walked away, leaving Laura in the ruins she had created. Our family fractured. My mother, once so proud, now spoke Laura's name with quiet disappointment. My father grew distant, heavy with unspoken shame, and Laura was left with nothing. No husband, no friend, no trust. She had chased perfection so fiercely that she destroyed everything in her grasp. Clara, though wounded, chose a different path. She left the city to rebuild her life far from the shadows of betrayal. And I, standing in the silence, could only hold one truth. Sometimes the deepest wounds are carved not by strangers but by the very people we once called family.